need the Cajun at gymnasium. I play to win, Will still Chamberlain. Even Damien and Satan is afraid of him.
Oh, word? And they was talking all that hot-ish. Where the prophets ain't apostles, here the gospel is the gossip. I'm a science project, try and pocket this rhyming process. Watch us in formation, going through lines. Fiber optics, this is Miley Cyrus in her freak phase. The naked truth, don't be Ray Caruth in a trunk punk, just take the truth. Shit, Daisy Dukes at a night show. I raid your room, change the mood. That was like though, yeah. Break a fuse if they refuse. This snapping, shots without the flashes. If I was ever in a pit with you, that's harassment. Your storyboard magic that had it. To be real, our ears over the field like 100-yard passes. Score the basket, order more caskets. Only way they getting bypasses is gastric. I'm tapped in, it's too late. Fix your face, this is sleeping on a killer in a cabin by Crystal Lake.
Lord,
we got rent to raise.
They gon' need to raise the rim. They gon' need a Cajun at gymnasium. I play to win, Will still Chamberlain. Put the globe on my middle finger and made it spin. They gon' need to raise the rim.
Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Productions. This is your host, Brother Rich, a.k.a. Black Magic, with Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Welcome back, my brother.
Man, peace, Black God. I appreciate you. I'm happy to be back. I'm a big admirer of your work, Black Magic 363.
I'm glad you back, brother. I seen you got your award yesterday. Was it your award or was it for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Both.
Okay.
We had 3 awards. We mean the Nation of Islam.
Yeah, that was strong.
Had 3 awards last night, so I'm proud.
Indeed. Well, we're gonna have a great conversation today. Spirituality. I'm very interested in getting your perspective on things that people are trying to find the answers for. We live in an internet era where, information is everywhere and everybody's everywhere as the result of information being everywhere. I want to start out with a quote that a lot of people use when it comes to religion. And they use this quote to say, I ain't messing with religion. And that quote is, it might have been Karl Marx, I'm not sure, but it's religion is the opium of the masses.
Yeah.
Religion has been used to do some of the most craziest ish known to man on the face of the earth. You come up with this religious system, you tell the people God said do this, the people listen to it, next thing you know they drinking Kool-Aid, they slaughtering children, they slaughtering babies, they doing all types of things. So people say, goddamn man, religion is the opium of the masses. Religion is what's got us locked down, not knowing who we truly are. So to start out with, my brother, what do you think about that quote, religion is the opium of the masses?
Karl Marx was perceptive with that observation. Opium is what's called in science an endocrine disruptor. What folks don't know, heroin and the legalized heroin, methadone, which the Nixon administration used to make the inner city black male docile, because opium diminishes testosterone. So when we say religion is the opium of the masses, that is true. Religion, as most of these religious institutions serve it to the people, it robs us of our testosterone. It robs us of our manhood. It makes us passive and docile to the powers that be. So in that sense, absolutely religion as it is offered to the people is an opium. It makes us content being at the foot of our oppressor. So I agree with Karl Marx in that sense. Now, Islam, be clear. Islam is not a religion. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says Islam was presented to the so-called Negro in America as a religion, but it's not a religion. It's the nature in which the original black man and woman were made. It's our natural inclination to submit to the will of God. We are out of our natural state. Rebellion against God is unnatural, but an unnatural man has grafted those unnatural inclinations into us. So Islam, as it was presented to the so-called Negro in America, initially had to be presented as a religion, as a crutch, until we were brought back up and reunited with our natural state, and then we don't need religion anymore.
Let me talk to you about a popular word when you study spirituality, and this word is the ego. What I want to know is, in terms of the ego, sometimes I think that certain groups only want to raise the consciousness of black people only if they get to be the head nigga in charge, only if they group can be responsible for doing it. So what I want to ask you is, are you okay? Let's say in the next 30 years, black people, our consciousness raise up. We build Black Wall Streets, we built institutions, we built hospitals, we built everything. And it's a result of, let's say, another group, another organization, and everybody become 75% of the black population becomes Moors, and they become Hebrew Israelites. Are you okay with that, knowing that you belong to a certain group, but it was another group that was responsible for having this resurrection within the black culture?
Absolutely. Well, understand how I understand the state of things. Black people in America have a whole spectrum of problems, a whole spectrum of pathologies, psychoses, and illnesses, which will require the spectrum of problems that we have, require a spectrum of skill sets, a spectrum of doctors operating on us, each with their own skill set, each targeted to the specific myriad of problems that is black life in America today. I have said publicly, because I get it from my teacher, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, every black organization, every black movement has its value. Every single black movement has its skill set that it brings to the problem of black life in America, that absent its skill set, we are at a loss collectively. Because if the Moors don't make their specific contribution to the resurrection of black life in America, if they don't make it, then that's an area in which we don't have the proper treatment. If the church doesn't make its legitimate contribution to restoring the health of black America, its specific contribution, if it doesn't make it, then that is an area of loss for us. So I am absolutely convinced that every single black organization and movement makes its peculiar contribution to the rise of black people peculiar because no one else can make that particular contribution.
What do you think about the, I asked you about a quote earlier. What do you think about the quote, there's a shirt that's pretty popular. It says, "I met God and she's black." When people think about the Nation of Islam and Christianity, they think about a male God. In this, they like to call it the age of Aquarius. People are looking at God as not just a male God anymore. God is now looked at as a female. They're saying we're in the time of the divine feminine. So based on your teachings and seeing where everything's going, if a sister walks into this mosque right here with a shirt that says, "I met God and she's black," are your brothers going to look at her like she's crazy?
Absolutely not. It was the most honorable Elijah Muhammad who taught the world that God is a self-created black man. And the first being after God himself was the black woman. It's the most honorable Elijah Muhammad who taught that before there was a sun, moon, or star, there was the black woman. It's the honorable Elijah Muhammad who identified the black woman as the co-creator with God. So we've been on the divine feminine long before they printed search.
Indeed,
with
okay.
the divine feminine.
Okay.
So, but we understand the proper order of things, because that is what the Nation of Islam is about. One of the things that distinguish the Nation of Islam from so many of our groups, other groups and organizations, is our emphasis on structure, on order. That's important to us because it was important to God. An ordered movement, an ordered effort will be a successful movement and successful effort. So order and hierarchy is important to the Nation of Islam because the divine order is ordered. Within the divine order, there's a divine hierarchy. So the black man is a god and a black woman is a god. I always say in my household, there are all of those, the males and the females, from my little 18-month-old baby girl. She's a god. She's addressed as a god in my household. My 18-year-old daughter is a black god. So when we speak the language black god, we always are inclusive of the black man and the black woman. Now, I'm not going to run from what I think may have been implied in your question. The black man is the head of his home in Islam. The divine order is reproduced in the black home, and the divine order is, there's levels to this thing. All gods ain't created equal. And the only reason the black male has right to be head of his household is because his nature as the first God, the black man is the first self of God. The black woman is the second self of God. And the two of them, we have the full or fullest expression of God. But the divine hierarchy of the cosmos is to be recapitulated in the home. So yes, the black woman is God, not dethroning the black man as God, and not dethroning the black man as head of his household as the God in the home.
I was walking in Brooklyn. It was probably a couple of months ago. You know, and brothers was having a debate. I was on Fulton Street, downtown Brooklyn, and brothers was having a debate about, and I'm sure you heard it before, but I gotta get your perspective on it and your wisdom on it. When we deal with the Nation of Islam, when we deal with these groups, and we deal with these historical figures like Jesus and Muhammad, isn't it to the point in 2018, isn't there irrefutable evidence at this point, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, that these people never existed?
Absolutely not. That is, you know, one of my personal disappointments as one who came up in the black consciousness cipher came up in the cipher of African-centered scholarship as one who engages and makes contributions to African-centered scholarship. One of my biggest disappointments is the state of consciousness, African-centered scholarship, and black consciousness intellectuality. Now, if there was one illustration that I would cite, or one example that I would cite to illustrate the ineptness of black conscious intellectuality, or the shortcoming of black conscious intellectuality, is that very issue that you raised. For it to be said that there is incontrovertible, overwhelming proof that neither Jesus nor Muhammad existed. See, that person is not a scholar who says that. That person is perpetuating an Africa or Afrocentric or black consciousness myth. Black conscious intellectuality has a lot of myths. One of them being the myth of the African mother goddess as supreme God, right? That was probably at the root of your previous question. That is a myth. We have deconstructed it. It's a myth that African peoples initially worshipped the woman as the God and the man as secondary God. That's a popular myth, but popularity doesn't make a myth a fact. Another popular myth in black conscious intellectuality is that there is no proof that Jesus and Muhammad in particular did not exist. That's false. There's overwhelming proof of Prophet Muhammad's existence, and I proved that in a debate with Dr. Ray Hagins. I don't know if we remember that. Some of us like to want to forget that, but I'm going to remind us of that because we've already established certain facts. But in order to perpetuate a myth, we have to have selective amnesia of facts that were already brought to the surface. So, no, brother, Prophet Muhammad's existence is completely, by completely I mean to the satisfaction of reasonable intelligence, of reasonable rationality. Prophet Muhammad's existence is pretty undisputed. Regarding Jesus, it is the case. If you are looking for a Jesus Christ as the Gospels present him, if you're looking through the historical record, hoping to find the Jesus Christ of the Gospels, then yes, you will come away from that endeavor saying this man never existed, because the Jesus Christ narrative as presented in the Gospels isn't history, but it was never intended to be a historical record of a man, despite what the common churchgoers would like to have us to believe. The Jesus narrative of the Gospels was never intended to be a historical narrative. So if you go looking for the report of that history in the historical record, you will come up empty. However, there is adequate evidence that there was the individual at the root of that gospel narrative. There was such a one. There was an historical figure that gave birth to multiple movements that claim him. The Gospels encapsulate only one movement that sprung up from his efforts. So yes, there is evidence of the existence of Jesus and Muhammad in particular. And so those who say that there's overwhelming evidence that they didn't exist in 2018. They just 2018 versions of myth makers.
In terms of what's going on right now, everything we're witnessing on TV in the streets, you know, politics and, you know, everything. I hear people say white fragility is higher than it's been in a long time. With the election of Trump, and we hear about, you know, something came out that said white deaths are outnumbering white births, and I forget how many states across the country. But what can you tell me? What do you think is going on spiritually right now in terms of, it seems like a lot of infighting is happening with the so-called powers that be, and they're arguing and bickering. I don't know if that's staged or not, but you just always hear something on the news about a white person called the cops on this, called the cops on that, called the cops on this happened, that happened. It seems there's more racial tension in the news that people are accustomed to seeing during the last 20 years. What do you think is a result of that? What's going on spiritually right now where this is coming to the surface, Dr. Wesley?
Yeah, no, it's not contrived. It's not fabricated. We are living in, we're witnessing the crisis in white supremacy, because we're living in the demise of white supremacy. And so the infighting among white folks, the fights are legitimate. They're scrambling to redefine whiteness for themselves in order to perpetuate white supremacy. White supremacy is dying its proper death, and the white supremacists are scrambling to arrest that development, but they don't agree on the path because Allah will not allow them to agree, because their day is done. So the scripture says, when Satan is cast against Satan, know that the end is near. Well, we are seeing Satan cast against Satan because the end for them is not near. The end for them is here. So the infighting is real, and the reason there's so much increased racial tension, you are right to cite the study. The black death rate has exceeded, the white death rate has exceeded the white birth rate, and white population growth has gone backwards. So in America, so whites are filled with the anxiety of the demise of white supremacy, and understand that the white supremacists are white males, and they know that their singular threat is the black male, and this is why the black male is the target of the assault that we are going around the country shining light on. He is assaulting the black man in particular in stepped up fashion, because he knows that it's the black male in America is his replacement. And I want to stress that even though white supremacy is a global phenomenon, and the unmanning of the black male is a global project, the ground zero, or the focus, the specific theater of the greatest assault is the United States of America, because the black male in America is the paramount threat to white supremacy, because it's the black male in particular. It's not the black man of Nigeria, though we love our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. It's not the black male of South India, though he is the blackest, triple blackest human being on the earth, probably. But the singular threat to white male supremacy is the black man in America. Rulership of the world is our call of duty. It's not the act the Nigerians call of duty. It's not the West Africans or South Africans call of duty. Rulership of the world replacing the devil will be the black god of America in particular. So all of his best, or from our perspective, worst efforts are directed toward the black male in America. So the anxiety you see with white people, it's real. They are suffering a crisis, a spiritual crisis, a cultural crisis, a crisis in whiteness.
There's something called the browning of America, tanning of America. And we're seeing a lot of racial mixing. You walk down the streets, or a lot of neighborhoods in New York City or all over the world. I mean, all over the country, all on the TV, the ads, the commercials. You see a lot of racial mixing going on. You see a lot of, a black guy with a white woman, or white woman, or vice versa, whatever. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of brothers feel, with this going on, a lot of brothers feel like the new white supremacist is going to be a brother that looks like you. It's going to be a brother that looks like me. It's going to be a light-skinned brother. It's going to be one of them high yellow brothers. That's going to be the brother that's going to replace white supremacy, and that we're weakening our race when we mix with them. Some people feel as though, it's a good thing. Let me get you, what's your take on this theory that the new white supremacist is going to be the light-skinned or the biracial black man and woman?
Well, there's an historical precedent for that. In South Africa, the buffer zone between the white Africans and the black South Africans were the so-called coloreds, the mulattoes, the mixed race, if you will. They were the buffer zone between the whites and the blacks, and they were tools of the whites to keep the blacks in control. The same thing happened in ancient India. When the Aryans went up in ancient India and eventually enslaving our triple black family in South India, the institution of the Hindu caste system, the buffer zone used to control the black Sudra, or the so-called black untouchables, was a mixed breed class. So that is the white man's way, to create a mixed breed to be used as the buffer between himself and black people. So that historical precedent is not to be overlooked. And so I absolutely am in disagreement with race mixing. We in the Nation of Islam, we do not support race mixing. The only solution to the problem of race is the separation of races. No black man should be with a white woman. No black woman should be with a white man. We don't want any mixing of the bloods or mixing of the races. Now, we in the United States, we all mixed up already. So let's be real clear. Yes, I am lighter than many, as are you, but don't use that, my or your complexion, to de-Africanize or unblack me. As I said when we were on another platform Friday, if complexion is the criterion of blackness or authentic Africanity, then that creates an irony. So many of these are Africa-centered or black nationalist brothers and sisters point to the sand people, so-called pygmy people of Southern Africa, as the prototype humanity, prototype black humanity. life started with this particular people, the Sand people or so-called pygmy people. Yet what's distinct about the Sand people is that they're high yellow. They're so high yellow that some of the earlier anthropologists or explorers assume that this African people had to have originated in Asia or have to have engrafted in their blood Asian blood, which they didn't. But if the Sand people aren't unblacked and they're very yellow in the continent of brownness and blackness, then certainly we, no matter how high yellow we may be, our blackness should not be called into question either. If, of course, unless our actions force us to surrender our black card. But you can be triple black and have your black card revoked if your actions may say that you are white and not black.
Now, you say the Nation of Islam is against racial mixing.
Yes.
A little earlier from that, you said that rulership over earth belongs to the black man here in America.
Yes.
The one thing that you could say makes us stand out from the other black people all over the world is the racial mixing. The fact that we have white in us, we have all these races in us.
Right.
So the very thing that you against, it seems as though that's the thing that makes us stand out from the rest of the world.
And gives us that peculiar qualification. That is right. Our spectrum, or the spectrum of our particular blackness, our 16 shades of black, if you will, as a result of all of the forced miscegenation.
Forced, okay.
Forced miscegenation, that's the operative word. But because when you come to the black man and woman in America, we look like every single people on the planet Earth.
Indeed.
But that's
indeed.
precisely why we are qualified to be the rulers of every land on the earth, because we can indigenize everywhere we go. We can look indigenous everywhere we go, because the spectrum of humanity is illustrated in Black American humanity. So that alone is one of the qualifications of why we can be world rulers. Now, I don't want it to, and you raised a good question that forces a nuance of the discussion. Well, if, Brother Wesley, you are saying your people, by virtue of what you said, benefited from that mixing in your blood, how then can you stand against the mixing of the blood? Well, let me say this. Remember when our brother Kanye West made that statement about slavery?
Yes.
Slavery, I think he said, sounds, after 400 years, sounds like a choice to me.
Yes.
Well, of course, we know from the human perspective, slavery was not a choice in that we never chose slavery for ourselves. So from the perspective of Earth, that was a historically errant statement. We fought against slavery from the minute them white boots stepped on the shores of Africa and sought to kidnap us from that day to the last day, we resisted slavery. But you know, Brother Rich, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, in his wisdom, profoundly nuanced that issue, and I think it's relevant to this question. While we did not choose slavery for ourselves, God did choose slavery for us. It's written right in the Bible, know of a surety, Abraham, your seed will be a stranger in the land that is not theirs. They shall serve them and be afflicted by them 400 years. So God ordained that we will suffer what no human population had ever suffered in the annals of, I dare say, 66 trillion years. No human being has suffered
In 66
trillion years from the time that moon was blasted from this earth. I'm assuming that that carnage was quite substantial. So I will tip my hat to their suffering, those who had to suffer the after blast of that explosion. But from that point to this, no people has suffered what we suffered at the hands of the white American enslaver. Why would God permit that of us? He didn't just permit it, he prescribed it for us. We suffered in this, but we will come out, the scripture says, with great substance. See, in Islam, by which I mean the religion of the black God, suffering is sine qua non of divinity. You like that? Sine qua non of divinity. Sine qua non is that which, without it, the thing ain't the thing. For example, in order for there to be a square, there must be 4 right angles. If there's not 4 right angles, that thing ain't a square. So 4 right angles is sine qua non of a square. Sine qua non of divinity is suffering. There is no growth into divinity without suffering. That's why the Quran says difficulty is ordained for us. Our religion does not give us warrant to desire a life of ease. Suffering is prerequisite to the growth of divinity. And there's levels to divinity. The higher level of godhood you want to go, the higher level of suffering you gotta endure. And I said earlier that it's a black man in America, in particular, who will achieve the highest level of godhood ever experienced by any of the gods in the 66 trillion years of this dispensation of time. Well, in order to qualify for that level of godhood, our suffering has to be peculiar to us. So yeah, God ordained that level of slavery, suffering, and death for us. We will come out of it with great substance, yet that doesn't mean, and this is my point getting back to the miscegenation, that don't mean that because God ordained for us slavery, that today we should be saying slavery is good, right? We should be advocating for the reinstitution of slavery. Slavery was forced upon us. We did not choose it for ourselves. We suffered it. We came through it. By Allah's grace, all things work for the good for those who love the Lord according to his purpose. So we benefit from something we didn't choose, but that doesn't mean that today we should choose it for ourselves. We benefit. We are mixed up in our blood because during that same institution, the devil raped us. he mixed his blood with us. Miscegenation, no, we're not really talking about that. We're talking about systematic rape and ravaging of our women. So no, miscegenation is a bad thing. We don't advocate for the mixing of the blood, but because we suffered that, we suffered the mixing of our blood, just like we suffered everything that came along with the Holocaust of enslavement. We accept the benefit of it, whatever benefit accrues to us, but we don't become advocates of that.
Indeed, my brother, indeed. If a sister, now there's an issue in America where a lot of sisters are saying that number one, they outnumber men. I think they say it's about 8-1 or something like that. And you know, I guess just brothers ain't what brothers used to be. What I want to ask you is that, because I'm trying to see the mindset of somebody that belongs to a religious organization, a spiritual organization, or just an organization in general. If a sister comes up in here, the sisters, you know, she got her ish together. She Sister Sharp, you know, she takes care of her children. She do everything a woman's supposed to do. Sister know how to take care of home. The sister takes care of her body. She eats healthy. She teaches her children to eat healthy. The sister, you know, she's on it in all walks of life. But the sister does not belong to the Nation of Islam. Is it a problem for you brothers to mate with this sister, to talk to the sister, to be with this sister? Is she a possible mate for you brothers, or does she have to belong to the Nation of Islam? Because if that's the case, then isn't that kind of ridiculous, Dr. Wesley Muhammad?
It is ridiculous because you presented a situation that simply does not exist. There's no such thing as a black woman who doesn't belong to the Nation of Islam. There's no such thing as a black man who doesn't belong to the Nation of Islam. You, Brother Rich, belong to the Nation of Islam. The black man and woman inherently belongs to the Nation of Islam. Whether some come to the realization of self sooner than others, some later, some even go to their grave, having not found the fullest understanding of who they are. But that doesn't change who they are. So every black man and woman, that when we approach our people, we are approaching God. It don't matter how they dress, don't matter what activity they're engaged in at the time. It doesn't matter the level of their victimization in this society, because every single one of us have been victimized to various degrees and in various ways by this society. None of that disqualifies them or us from their divine identity as black God. So the sister that you described, I can envision everything about her that you described except your description that she isn't Nation of Islam. She is Nation of Islam, whether she recognizes it at that time or not.
Indeed, indeed. In terms of spirituality, and a lot of people right now, they're studying quantum physics. The world seems to be going in this quantum direction with computers, technology. We're hearing more and more. You know, the movie came out probably 10 years ago, The Matrix, the holographic universe, and everybody's dealing with this being an illusion and this not being real. And this, I think some of the ancients call it Maya. Maya is an ancient word for illusion, if I'm not mistaken. Where does that fit in to the teachings from the Nation of Islam, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in terms of all of this being an illusion?
The white man's world absolutely is an illusion. And we live in the white man's world, let's be real clear. No matter, and you can't travel anywhere on this planet, at least nowhere within 98% of the totality of this planet, you can't travel and escape the white man's world. This has been his world for 6,000 years. And it is an illusion, not to say it's a phantom. that you can't touch. It's an illusion because reality is God. The world that his world supplanted was the real world. The world of the black gods, the world of righteousness. And after this world ends, the real world will begin again. In the meantime, this is an aberration. The white man's world is an illusion because it's an aberration. It inherently goes against everything natural. The white man is unnatural, so everything about his world inherently contravenes nature at every opportunity. So in that sense, this world is an illusion because it's fleeting. It will end. That which is real is that which is sustaining, perpetual. So the real world will be realized again. His world, this world, our world within his world, it is an illusion because it's an aberration.
Indeed, indeed. Now, in terms of, you was on the Breakfast Club, and I didn't get to see the whole interview, but I know you touched on, I don't know if it was marijuana and something they put into the marijuana. Marijuana is about to be legal everywhere. It's pretty much legal in a lot of states. I think New York is coming now. They're saying that they won't arrest you if you have marijuana on you. So a lot of brothers, if they didn't smoke weed before, they like time to spark up.
And that's the point.
So talk to me about now marijuana. This is supposed to be something natural, Wesley. Don't get too, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I'm pretty much know what I'm talking about. But brothers want to engage in, what comes from Mother Earth. This is a plant that comes from Mother Earth. So what you're saying now is all marijuana bad, or this new batch of marijuana that we're getting in the streets?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brothers want to engage in what comes from the earth. The crackhead too is engaging in what comes from the earth, because a coca plant was placed on the earth by the same God that placed the cannabis plant on the earth. But just as crack isn't what God planted on the earth, loud ain't what God planted on the earth. Dro or Kush ain't what God planted on the earth. Okay. So I know my word. Let's not get it twisted. Cannabis, the plant that God planted in Central Asia, maybe 12,000 years ago, maybe earlier, in Central Asia, that cold frigid zone. It migrated to Africa and then morphed when it got to Africa. It's not native to Africa. But he planted it in Central Asia, and it has great value. It is a holy herb kept in its holy state. We in the Nation of Islam understand holy to be that which is pure, unmixed, undiluted, untampered with in any way. Once you mix, dilute, or tamper with it, it's no longer holy. In fact, it's now devil, because that's a very definition of devil, that which is grafted from original. So God planted a holy herb, a divine herb, but we are smoking devil. What we are smoking is grafted. And how do we know we are smoking devil and not the holy herb? The holy herb has a THC content of less than 1%, at most 1.5%. But that ain't getting you high in 2018. You need 10, 12, 30% THC in your kush to get lifted. And that's the weed that's on the street and in the dispensaries, the so-called medical marijuana dispensaries. It has this enhanced THC. That's graftation. That's tampering. And the CBD, which is the better of the cannabinoids or cannabis peculiar compounds. CBD is the better alternative health-wise than THC, but CBD is grafted out of loud. It's grafted out of Kush because CBD tames the effect of THC. So if you want to get the full expression of THC, you got to separate it from the controlling effect of CBD, just like the white man who is born from the brown germ of the black man did. So long as the brown germ was under the recessive germ or gene was under the control of the black gene, the dominant gene, then it can't express itself. But the white man is the illustration of separating the brown germ from the controlling influence of the black germ and letting all of his chaos have its way. That's loud. That's Kush. The THC is grafted out of the controlling effect of CBD. So this stuff is high, elevated THC, diminished CBD. You smoking a white man, bruh.
Wow. Never quite heard that analogy, brother. Wow, that's something right there. I can't wait to see the comments on that one. Your brothers heard that? Oh, man. Okay, Dr. Wesley, moving on, my brother. Moving on. Oh, man, where should we go now? Well, in terms of politics, Donald Trump. How does the Nation of Islam feel? Is he bringing about what we want to come about at a faster rate? Is he a blessing in disguise? Is he crazy? Is he? Some people say he's not even a white supremacist. He's a white extremist. They saying that man is extreme. He's not even covert about it. How do you feel about America having, that type of person in a position of presidency at this time?
Thank you. God gave us, through the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the solution to the race problem in America. There's only one solution to the race problem in America. That solution is separation or death. There is no possibility of peaceful coexistence between black people and white people in America. There's no possibility of that. So separation is the only answer. It's the answer, it's the solution that God himself prescribed for us. Black America rejected the solution that God prescribed for us. And we opted not for separation, but for integration. And God, though he has the power to impose, that ain't his way. He wants us to agree with him. So he said separation. We said, nah, bruh, we want integration. So we integrated. And Allah allows the full weight of our decisions to come upon our head. President Donald Trump is just one more piece of the weight coming down on our head as a consequence of our decision. We choose to put faith in the American political system to service our needs. We choose to continue in 2018 to believe that the solution to our problems can be voted, that the legislative process can solve our problems and the problems of race in America. That's our fault. That's our error. It's not our mistake. It's our era. So we earned Donald Trump. We earned, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the fiery serpents that the Bible speaks about that was unleashed on the children of Israel, the fiery serpents are angry white people. Donald Trump and his base, these extremists that you mentioned, they are the fiery serpents that God allowed to be unleashed on us, but they are the result of choices we made. We continue to put faith in the white man to change. Donald Trump is no better or worse than every single president that occupied that space before him. Donald Trump isn't worse than Bill Clinton. In fact, President Bill Clinton is worse to black people than President Donald Trump has yet had the opportunity to be. Now, he may prove to be in the end, but right now he just talking. We mad at his sentiment, right? Now, I am angry with the separating of children from their parents in this under the guise of zero tolerance. And they are disallowing the press in these places. Women or girls and boys are vulnerable to these predators. But you want to know who I'm angry with even as much as I am a white Donald Trump who authorized this travesty? I'm equally angry at black folks who trivialize this travesty because they're brown and not black.
Some people feel like we always caping for other groups, and those groups ain't, when it comes time, they're not fighting for our cause.
But that ain't the point. We don't do good expecting a favor. If something is wrong, it's wrong. And whether those who are victimized by the wrong have done anything for us in the past or not, it's a moot point. It's irrelevant. What kind of humanity is that? That we will only condemn that level of victimization if before it the person hooked me up. So if I ain't got the hookup from dude, I'm not in any way moved by the fact that his wife and children are being slaughtered. So what that sets up, when it comes around to us, who's gonna cry for us? How can we expect anyone else to show humanity for us? Because the so-called Negro, not even if we were willing to give others the hookup, we ain't got no hook for them. So we haven't been exporting good, all this good to all of these communities. So when it comes around to us, yet we expect everybody to show humanity for our suffering, but we can't show humanity for the suffering of our brown brothers. The white man, yes, is there black and brown beef in certain areas? Yes, there is. Just like there's blue and red beef in certain areas, and the same ones at the root of the blue and red beef is at the root of the black and brown beef. So, no, I am not. I did not vote for Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. I have no particular fondness for him, But I don't dislike him any more than I dislike President Bill Clinton. All of the presidents of the United States of America have been enemies of the rise of black people. And unfortunately, that includes President Obama, not because he himself is an enemy or even was an enemy to the rise of black people. I do not believe that in any way, shape, or form. But he held an office that is very nature, its very construction is inimical to the rise of black people. So he was elected to be Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is an enemy to the well-being of the children of Israel, though he is a good man, but I'm glad he's out of that office. I'm saying this in closing, the Obama family, they didn't belong in that place. They are too noble for that place. Trump and Melania are way more appropriate for that White House than that black nobility, the Obamas.
I got one last question for you, my brother. Such a magnificent interview. Just to touch on a couple of your last points. Some people are upset that, you know, quote unquote African Americans run around caping for every other group. Some people were mad that the black lady on July 4th, she climbed the Statue of Liberty to protest ICE. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with black people? We just want to fight. We want to fight for everybody. You don't like the idea of, you're saying it's either separation or death. That's the solution, separation or death. So there's a lot of people that feel like you that say, what the hell's wrong with us? We don't get it by now. Why don't we just separate from him? We could build our own institutions. We could build our own this. We could have that. We could have this. We could have everything. We could have Black Wall Street again. Why don't we just separate? So we're trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with us.
Well, let's be clear. You're not quoting me. I know what the hell is wrong with us.
Yeah. Is the thing that, the very thing that you said causes us to fight for other groups, our humanity, is that the same thing that's causing us not to separate? So the very thing that we have that you are like, we need to separate them, is the same thing that we have that is causing us to help other groups, our humanity. And how can you fight against the humanity of God?
Yes. No, I don't believe that's the case. It's not our humanity that is keeping us from separating from our open enemy. What's keeping us from separating from our open enemy is fear of our open enemy, cowardice, cowardliness, and the conviction that we can't survive without him. The conviction that still white is right, black is insufficient. So a black nation, when we hear a black nation, we envision a national ghetto. We think a black government, that we can only do black government the way we do Negro organizations. And that thinking is the result of a lack of proper knowledge of self. Because if you know and accept that the black man is God, then you know that not only can we survive absent white people, but the only way we can thrive is absent white people. It's not our humanity that's keeping us bound to our enemy. It's fear to leave our enemy and the lack of confidence that we can exist independent of our enemy. The sister, let me piece apart, if I may, the thinking that I'm sure it wasn't your thinking, but you're presenting thinking that's out there and that's appropriate. So the sister, the Congolese sister that in protesting ICE scaled the Statue of Liberty. And people say, what's wrong with her? Why don't she this and why don't she that? But the people asking, why don't she? They don't know what she do. They don't know the breadth of her activism. And that is epidemic in black conscious intellectuality. We take liberties with our thinking about people that we don't have factual warrant to. We make all of these assumptions. We hear, because y'all do it with the minister in the Nation of Islam. Y'all hear us take one position or do one thing and say, well, why aren't y'all doing this? But in fact, we are doing that. You just didn't educate yourself before you open your mouth. You think that everything, not you, but those who speak like that, you think that sisters' only reality is a reality that the white media made accessible to you. And you got the nerve, and you the black conscious intellectual, you got the nerve to run out and cast judgment based totally on the caricature of this black person that the white media gave you. So you are no better than the enemy that you say you banging on. See, we are quick to be dismissive of each other. We are quick to be judgmental of each other without warrant. So no, it is not our humanity that's the problem. Now, manipulation of our humanity is a problem, but let's not conflate black humanity with Negroism. When our sister, bless her heart, when that devil killed our family, 9 of our family in South Carolina, and when our first response, the men, said, get into a prayer circle and pray for him. That ain't black humanity. That's Negro cowardliness. That's Negroism.
Okay.
When we offered to forgive him, and he didn't want our forgiveness, but we come and offer forgiveness for our tormentors that we don't want. That's not humanity. That's the result of the white man's tinkering with our mind and our soul. So don't conflate that with our humanity.
Whew. Okay, brother. All right. Oh, man. Leave your contact info, man. Anything you want the people to know. Any closing remarks, brother? I definitely appreciate the interview once again, my brother.
And again, I want to say thank you, Brother Rich. I'm requested to be on a lot of interview platforms, and everybody ain't cut out to be the interviewer. Oftentimes it's a waste of time because the questions aren't quality. Either they're afraid to ask frontal questions, or they just didn't prepare. But each time I sat on your platform, I'm always appreciated your questioning, the lack of fear in your questioning, and the thought process behind your questioning. So I support Black Magic 363. I pray that Allah continues to bless you and this platform with success. I can be reached on social media, Facebook, Wesley Muhammad, Instagram and Twitter, YouTube, Wesley Muhammad, and I can be reached at on my webpage, www.drwesleymuhammad.info. That's drwesleymuhammad.info.
Indeed. Once again, thanks for coming out, brother. Dr. Wesley Muhammad on Underground Railroad. We signing out, family. Peace.
Peace.
They gon' need the cage in that gymnasium. I play to win, Will still Chamberlain. Even Damien and Satan is afraid of him.
And they was talking all that hot ish. Where the prophets ain't apostles, here the gospel is the gossip. I'm a science project, try and pocket this rhyming process. Watch us in formation, going through lines. Fiber optics, this is Miley Cyrus in her freak phase. The naked truth, don't be Ray Caruth in a trunk punk, just take the truth. Shit, Daisy Dukes at a night show. I raid your room, change the mood. That was like though, yeah. Break a fuse if they refuse. This snapping, shots without the flashes. If I was ever in a pit with you, that's harassment. Your storyboard magic, they had it. To be real, our ears over the field like 100-yard passes. Score the basket, order more caskets. Only way they getting bypasses is gastric. I'm tapped in, it's too late. Fix your face, this is sleeping on a killer in a cabin by Crystal Lake.
Lord,
we got rent to raise.
They gon' need to raise the rim. They gon' need a cage in that gymnasium. I play to win, Will still Chamberlain. Put the globe on my middle finger and made it spin. They gon' need to raise the rim.